Today, as a part of this wealth management series, we're going to talk about one of the most critical and most impacting topics, which is the amazing power of compounding. And Albert Einstein had named it as compounding as the eighth wonder of the world. Now, if he's done that, obviously there's something which you will really understand about compounding. My name is Manoj Arora. I am an engineering gold medalist, plus I have around 20 years of experience working with the world's best Fortune 500 companies, and I also happen to be a best-selling author of two of the books, as you see here, from the Rat Race to Financial Freedom and Happiness Unlimited. So today we're going to really focus on the power of compounding, and we'll also learn a few things in terms of how to use this power for our own benefit. Just go back a little bit and ask yourself these questions and honestly try and answer how many of these do you really know the answer for. For example, what are your dreams in life? Have you forgotten them, or are they still with you? How much money do you think is enough for you in your life, or you are in a race where you just want to earn till you retire? Okay, you do not really know how much is enough, and you just keep earning throughout your life. And you would have seen so many people who are seriously rich and wealthy. So what is that? How is that serious wealth created? Are there any proven principles that we can follow which can generate long-term wealth? And if yes, what are those proven principles? And can I learn them? Can I really adopt them in my life? That is all we're going to learn here today. Is generating wealth enough, or we also need to manage it well? So one is that I create wealth or I inherit wealth, get it from somewhere, but that's not enough, right? What we have seen by experience is people who kind of inherit great wealth but haven't learned how to manage it in the next few years would lose all that wealth. And so it's very critical to also learn to manage wealth. So as a part of these wealth management principles, the one which we're focusing on today is compounding, and we will see today how powerful it really is. How can I leverage compounding to create massive wealth over long term? Compounding doesn't work in short term. If you ask compounding to give you a benefit in the next 6 months, 1 year, it's not going to work like that. It works in leverage with the time principle, which we'll study in the later sections and modules. But how we can really leverage that compounding effect to create massive wealth, this is what we're going to see. This is what's in it for you. So this is what you're going to learn. Understand this principle of compounding. Learn how to handle, save, and compound money. And it seems simple, but there is a lot of power in the simplicity which we got to realize. Learn how the time-tested principle of compounding can work with time leverage to generate serious wealth. So we're going to see some examples of how this principle really works along with time leverage to generate some serious wealth for you. And we're not talking about a few rupees here, it's with millions and billions we are talking here. Okay, so you got to be very seriously looking at this topic, because this is one of the most powerful, and as Albert Einstein had said, eighth wonder of the world. So you got to take it very seriously. And let's start getting to understand what this compounding is all about. So what is compound interest? If you look at Wikipedia, simple definition is it is the interest added to the principal of a deposit, so that the added interest also earns interest. Okay, so if you invest 100 rupees, you earn 10 rupees out of it. So 100 plus 10 become 110. Next time you get interest on 110. So that extra 10 rupees that you earn in interest also start earning interest for you. Now, this is a very vital element of compound interest, which is not there in simple interest. So in simple interest, you only earn interest on the principal amount. That's it. The interest earned never gets added and never earns more interest for you. This small difference can be life changing. Okay. Which one is better, simple interest or compound interest? Obviously it's easier. Simple interest is much easier to calculate. Compound interest is a slightly complex calculation, but it's the one which is going to make you wealthy over time. And usually banks will pay you compound interest on a periodic basis. So you may ask a question that if banks already pay us compound interest, I have my money in the bank, why am I not super wealthy and super rich? It's because you have still not understood how compounding really works and how we can really leverage it to make ourselves rich, and what kind of discipline and commitment it demands before you can become super wealthy. So we will see all that later. How is compound interest calculated? So what you see here is a simple calculation. Future value is equal to present value multiplied by 1 plus I being the rate of interest that the bank or any other organization gives you, and is the time period for which you have kept that money. So let's take an example. If let's say you have 1000 rupees with you, and you want to invest it for 10 years at the rate of 9% per annum, the balance after 10 years would be like something like this, and the calculation is shown here. So if it was simple interest calculation, it's really simple. So you're earning at 9% for 1000 investment, so you earn 90 rupees, right? And so if 90 rupees is your interest for 1 year, then for 10 years it becomes 900. It's very simple. So your future value of money actually becomes your earlier investment, which was 1000 rupees, and to that you add your interest 900 rupees for 10 years, which essentially becomes 1900. Compound interest, the calculation is slightly complex. So you say as you use the formula that we just saw. So 1000 rupees my present value, you multiply it by 1 plus I being 9%, which is 0.09. So 1 plus 0.09, which is 1.09, raised to the power, this is n is exponential, so raised to the power the time period, which is 10 years in this case. So that if you do this calculation using a scientific calculator, what you see is that the compound interest gives you 2367 as the future value instead of 1900. Now here's the point. Do not ignore that this is a small difference between what simple interest gave you and what compound interest gave you. It's not about the difference of 467 rupees between the two answers. Now this is a typical school mistake all of us do. We use these kind of numbers in the school, we come up with answers, we are well versed with how to calculate simple and compound interest, and we say, okay, that gave me 467 rupees extra. What we never realized is this difference can be life changing. I'll tell you how. Look at this way, the difference between the two interests earned. Let's say simple interest earned you an interest of 900 rupees, right? And compound interest earned an interest of 2367 is the future value, so interest was 1367. So it earned an interest of 1367 against an interest of 900 for simple interest, which means 467 extra against 900 rupees, which was from simple interest. Now, this is a whopping difference of 52%. Remember that in 10 years what you earned from compound interest was 52% higher than what you earned from simple interest. And as you move along, as you go to the 11th year and 12th year and 13th year, this difference in percentage keeps increasing. And why does it happen? Because that's how compound interest is. It keeps paying you interest and the interest on the interest. So already there is a 52% difference, and this difference will keep going up. Now remember this difference can become huge, so huge that it can alter your life's course. How? If the amounts involved, or the time period involved, or the interest rate involved. These are three factors, right, which are there in the formula of compound interest. If any of these, or all of these, or some of these become big, this difference can be life changing, and we'll see some examples. So which means that either you invest huge amount, or you invest it at a higher rate of return, or the biggest factor, you invest it for more number of time periods. This difference can be huge. Now some of you may ask me, okay, even if I invest for 20 years, instead of 467 rupees, I'll get 900 rupees extra. No. That's why Einstein said it's the eighth wonder of the world. So we're going to look at some examples which will kind of make it clear to you. Okay, so you've understood what compound interest is. You're yet to realize and appreciate the impact it can have in your life. It can change your life. So let's see what are some of the misconceptions we have before we go to certain examples. Compound interest, most of us believe, is just some extra interest over interest. Okay, and we just saw, so we earn some interest, let's say 10 rupees for 1000 rupees. Okay, so it becomes 1010, and then we'll earn interest on 1000. It's just, that's even more. So that's just an extra interest over interest, so it doesn't really impact my life. And we all think we all understand what is compound interest. Well, here's the fact. The fact is, it's the eighth wonder of the world. We have never ever realized the true power of compounding. We've never actually used it in our life. We know the formula, we know how to calculate, we have never used it in our life. We may have got some compound interest from the bank, from some deposit, from somewhere, but we have never realized, which means we have never ever used it to generate huge wealth. Okay. Why? Perhaps because the next bullet says that realizing the true power of compounding needs immense discipline and commitment. Why does it need immense discipline and commitment? Because the power comes into play only if you invest for extended periods of time. Because N, you remember in the formula, that's an important factor. The time period, and the most important factor in the formula. And you got to have the discipline to stay committed to generating huge wealth for, let's say, 20 years, 30 years. And staying disciplined for 30 years is not a joke, I'll tell you. And I mean, let's say you have crores of rupees in your bank, and somebody asks you, no, don't touch it. You got to stay disciplined. You got to stay committed for next 30 years. You can't touch it. No, you can't get your new mobile. Just no, you can't touch that money, because that's how compounding works. Let it work. Now that discipline is not easy. It's not everybody's game, but it has the power. If you can stay disciplined, if you can stay committed, you can really get wealthy out of compound interest. And you will need some kind of a strong reason to stay committed to that long a time period. It's not just going to be for fun. You will need really strong reason why you want to get seriously wealthy, and then only the discipline and commitment will come. Okay, let's take a few examples to really understand and appreciate the power of compound interest. And so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I'm going to ask you to judge the answers for those questions. And you don't need to be accurate while you're judging the answer. So here's the first example. I call it as soul searching examples, because when I really looked at these questions and then looked at the answers, I realized that these are really, really hit my soul directly, because I never expected that, and that's where I realized the power of compounding. Okay, so the first example: which one is a better option on day 30 of month 1? Okay, so you have to tell me that as of end of month 1, which of the below options A and B, which of these two options is better from money perspective, from generating wealth perspective? Option number A: I give you rupees 1 crore on the first day of the month. Okay, and that's it. So I give you 1 crore on day 1, and you will earn some interest for 1 month. So end of the month, you'll have some money which is more than 1 crore. Okay, I don't know how much it is. It depends on the interest that you earn. Depends on where you invest. Okay. Option number B: I give you rupee 1, only rupee 1, okay, on day number 1. Rupee 2 on day number 2. Rupee 4 on day number 3. And so on, and so on, and so on. I keep giving it to you for 1 month, till 30th day. Okay, so I'm just doubling, so 1, 2, 4, then 8, then 16 rupees, and 32 rupees, like that. So which is a better option? For those who have answered option A, you are with me, because I also answered option A when I saw it for the first time. But here's it. Option A gives us 1.01 crore rupees, assuming we earned 10% interest in 1 month, in 1 year, and we convert it into monthly interest, and so it comes out to approximately 1.01 crores. We don't need to be that accurate. It's just, example is basically to get you the concept. Well, option B gives us 2.38 crores. Now take out your calculators and do it. Don't believe on me, but you must calculate. You must, while you're calculating day by day, you will realize that when you saw this question, you only did the calculation in your mind for maybe 5 days, 10 days, and maybe those who are really methodical, they would have done it for 12, 13 days. And that's where you miss it usually, because compounding doesn't really show its true power in the initial days, initial years. It's got something called as delayed gratification. It shows its true power only during the last few days in the last few years. But it's so powerful in those few days or few years that it can just alter your life. Okay? So in option B, what was happening was your money was growing. It was doubling every day. So you're getting 1 rupee, and then 2 rupees, and then 4 rupees, and so basically you were earning interest on interest, and that is why it reached such humongous proportions, though it never felt like reaching. And typically what happens is, in our life, even when we start getting compound interest, after a few years we realize, oh, the money has just grown a little bit, so let me take out something. I want to buy my mobile, or let me take out something. I want to get a new car. I have enough money. And then when you take it out, you just lose it. You just lose the plot there. Compounding will work when you let it work, when you let it grow, and it can be huge if you let it grow. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Let's say I give you a sheet of paper, and I ask you to fold it 50 times. Fold means fold it in half, and then again fold it in half, and then again. So do it 50 times. Now Some of you may ask me that it's not really possible to fold it 50 times one over the other. Let's assume that theoretically it's possible. And so you've got to judge an answer. So let's say I give you a simple sheet of paper, which is what thickness, roughly 0.1 mm thickness, and I ask you to fold it into half and then fold the entire new sheet, or the new once you fold it into half, again fold it into half, so it'll become 4 folds, and then again fold it into half. Yeah, after a few folds physically you may find it difficult, but let's theoretically assume that you're able to do it. Thickness of the sheet is assumed as 0.1 mm, which is a normal sheet. And tell me, what is going to be the approximate thickness after 50 folds? Make some guesses. I know you may not be having a calculator right now, but just make a guess. 100 mm, 1 meter. You know, the biggest guess that I have ever heard in any of the sessions which I have taken earlier, the biggest guess I have heard is maybe 100 meters thick. That's the biggest I have heard. So I don't know what you want to judge, but if you look at the answer, don't get shocked or surprised. The thickness of that 0.1 mm thick sheet after 50 folds is 1125 lakh kilometers. That's 112 million kilometers. I am not joking. Take out your calculators and calculate. 0.1 mm, once you fold it, it will become 0.2 mm. You fold it again, it will become 0.4 mm. Yes, that's all. Do it 50 times. The problem is we'll stop after 5 times or 10 times and then judge the answer based on the result we got for 10 times. Now that's where compounding will beat you again, beat your entire thinking process again, and that's why it's the 8th wonder of the world. And here's the magic. What happens if you do a 51st fold? So 1125 becomes double, right? So what the increase in thickness with one fold after the 50th fold, okay, is the same as that was achieved in the first 50 folds. Understand this. Whatever time you spent in 50 folds, whatever effort you did, whatever time period you waited, you can just achieve the entire result in one more fold. This is the power of time leverage coming into play and making compounding so effective. You have to give it time to show its power, and it is superbly powerful, and you must have at least got some realization today of how powerful it really is. Last example. Indians in Manhattan in the year 1625, they sold all their real estate to a group of immigrants for $24. Now this is way back, 300 years back, 400 years back maybe. So $24 was a big amount in those days. The current value of that real estate is estimated to be around 12,000 crore dollars. Okay, so 400 years back, they sold it for $24. The current estimated value is 12,000 crore dollars. The question is, what are the Indians wise in selling it for a mere $24? Now some of you may have got the hints from the previous two examples and must have thought, oh, looks like $24 was too cheap, but we're doing a third example. We already know what compounding can do in the first two examples, and therefore we're not going to answer that was not a wise investment, so we are careful. Fine. But let's understand the impact in terms of numbers. Let's see. Indians were very smart and wise. Why? $24 invested and compounded at 8% interest, which is the normal rate of interest you get in India. would yield a whopping $300 trillion. Okay, it's not a question of being double or triple. Instead of 12,000 crores, we have 30,000 crores. It's thousands of times higher than the current worth. Thousands of times higher, okay? 30,000 crores. $300 trillion. So that is what compounding can do with time. Of course, you're not going to survive probably for 400 years to really let your money compound. But I just wanted to explain you these so that you can really understand that the longer you keep it, longer you don't touch it, it can multiply like anything. It's like a nuclear reaction. It just becomes uncontrolled after some time. I mean, it just keeps growing and growing, and you don't even realize what's happening. And the the problem that you face after you really start getting the benefit of compound interest is you need serious attention to manage that money. Okay, and we discussed it in the initial initial slide. You will get that wealth, and now you're going to manage that. So we'll come to that in some of the later modules that we'll study how to really manage that wealth. But the first aspect is to get that wealth. Okay, so that's what compounding can do for you. So here's a summary. Compounding is one of the most powerful tools to build great wealth. We hardly understand or appreciate compounding as it is today. We have studied it, we have learned it in school, we know the formula, we know how to use the formula, we get compound interest in our banks, but we don't know what it can do if we are disciplined, if we are committed for a period of 20-30 years. It can alter our life. We should not go by the result that we see in the first 5 years or 10 years. That's not where its power is. Its power is in the last few years of the tenure. It needs a lot of discipline and a lot of time to leverage that power. And that is the reason not everybody is able to do it. Not everybody has that discipline and time commitment. No, not everyone has. It needs a very strong reason to stay committed for that long. Compounding has delayed gratification. We just saw that. The power is in the last few tenures. We should not expect instant results. But the one thing which I can tell you is this wait and this discipline is just worth it. I have realized it. You can realize it too in your life. You can get super duper rich. I'll tell you. You don't have to do any business. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have financial degrees. You don't really need to inherit great wealth, but you can still be super duper rich. The money that compounding can generate can be humongous. It can be much more than what salary you earn, what business you do, whatever. It can be humongous. But you've got to understand and appreciate the power and get disciplined. If you can leverage the power of compounding from a young age, now that's where your time factor comes into play. People who start saving from a younger age obviously have a big advantage as far as compounding is concerned. And I have asked my daughters to start saving and compounding money from their pocket money. Start saving 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200, whatever you can save from your pocket money. Save it, put it, forget it, and let it compound, let it grow. Don't go by what 100 rupees saving can do for you. It can be humongous if you let it grow. So that's how I'm trying to inculcate in them in terms of leveraging the time that they have in their hands. Now, I was late when I started. I started my job at 21, 22, but I started really using this power at the age of 30, 32. So which means I lost 10 years. Now that was really huge. I can never get it back. So we'll study one of the other principles, the time leverage. We'll study this concept in more detail. Okay, any help? Write back to me, help at manoj-arora.com. Um, Free for all. Anybody can write back to me and I'll be happy to help. Thank you.